Rightio, how do folks? So we've got a mirror breakdown and we have the game up of this area that we're going to switch between to sort of do our analysis on. So we're going to go based off the mirror first. So we've got four examples, and in these examples, I've captured in-game shots, sort of reshade shots, wireframe shots for various elements, and some texture breakdowns as well, and some stuff about the parallax occlusion with some references. So we're going to talk about all that. Firstly, love the game. It's especially I played it a bit before the patch and then a bit after. Really good stuff. The patch afterwards definitely makes controls a lot easier. So yeah, I want to look at we'll look at this environment first. So one of the big things that is making rounds is sort of these bricks across the whole game. They pop out. You kind of see, if we kind of go and get a close angle up here, right, and you look at an angle, you see like the call it the gummy bear effect on the edges. This is a typical artifact from Displacement or parallax offset, which are, those techniques have been around since the start of time, where it is faking the geometry. However, there are some things around that we'll get into as we go along. Yeah, so let's have a look at this. One thing I want to draw attention to first, right, is if we go into display depth, you'll notice that those walls at the moment in the very far distance, that is the geo. They are just, and we can look at the wireframes in a little bit, they are just flat. But as soon as we go in, we get this sort of linear fade, like 0 to 1, beautiful linear fade of where the shader is starting to kick in for the parallax offset. Until you get very close, you get the full strength. But yes, there is quite a nice fade out where this kicks in more based on distance, which makes sense, when you're at a certain distance, like here, just like you do with LODs or anything like that, you don't need to see the full power of that shader. And then when you get close, it's like boom, give you all the juice. So let's have a look at that on the Miro. So yeah, we captured these screenshots, these lovely bricks. The wireframe again supports this. It is just essentially a cube with some very thin triangle cuts to cut a hole in, and then some floaty rock bits floating over it. Again, thin triangles, we talk about this all the time on the channel, but yes, they are considered a bad practice, but if it doesn't affect anything in your engine specifically, you see them all the time nowadays. Where they are issues is if you're working on legacy technology or older school technology, you're working on mobile, virtual reality. Yes, this stuff matters, right? So in the case of like if this was going to be more optimized, you would sort of take this up to here and take this up to here, take these down here, try and have much more of a chunky natural triangulation to what you're doing. But yes, this doesn't seem to cause some problems, so that's absolutely fine. As you can see, we just saw those bricks that are floating out. This is a technique we cover many times on the channel, but it is essentially you have your brick here. Nice square, bro. You have your brick, and this brick is a tiling. If you read my handwriting, God bless you. This is a tiling texture. And then, this is another tiling texture. And then you go in on that tiling texture, and what you do is, I've actually been able to find the texture for this, which is pretty cool, or a very similar texture. You go onto the flat surface. So if we say this is our sort of, our tiling texture, to break it up from being a box, you just start adding in these little meshes every now and again, especially if the player is going to get very close to it. And that's going to break stuff up. And we see this here, right? We see on this sort of, actually more so in this geo here, we see all these bricks just floated in, and they are textured and unwrapped uniquely here so that they can get good information on every axis. Because there are two techniques to this usually. One is you just take the texture, the tiling texture, and you map a cube on it. Only works if things are very far away or if you're third person. In a game like Crimson Desert, where you can quite literally get really close to some hanging bricks and see every axis, it has no chance of not falling apart if you're trying to use a tiling texture on the separate geometric brick. That's why you do a high to low poly, you break out all your bricks as unique, you give them the same color and the same albedo. You can tell these are different textures, but they roughly match enough to where it's not too distracting and then you pop them in. It's really good for corners, edges, and all that sort of jazz. Actually, in this example here, if I toggle between this is a typical wall where tiling texture does most of the work and then the edge bricks sort of enhance that. If we just go between that, that's all the floating bricks they're using. Nicely optimized, chunky, probably baked high to low poly, sculpted, given the same general albedo, color, and roughness, but a completely separate texture. And these can be used as rubble, they can be used on the floor, they can be used, wherever you want to use it, which is awesome. But yeah, that fading out is pretty cool, and all that jazz. Now, I want to hop over to example 4 because there is some, it's not just parallax offset, there's some extra stuff going on here. So I found some really good resources when I was looking online for this, because this has been mentioned quite a lot already. What is going on with that shader? And this user here on X showed a really good example of that. This shader does actually give you silhouette if you are going between the scalability. So I think if you set yourself to low model quality in the settings, you just get the base geo. As soon as you go up to high production or anything like that, you actually get some silhouette, which is kind of crazy because traditional POM, it was always like, oh yeah, you get it on the flat surface. And apparently this is a specific technique within that family of parallax offset and displacement mapping, brought up and linked to by this chap, Georgian. So these were the first 2 chaps I found this from, FR3NKD and Georgian, both in pretty good figures in the games industry and online. And Georgian puts Pearl Abyss, Jesus, no. Pearl Abyss have used parallax offsetting, but then with offset limiting. Not a term I've heard of before, but he links to this sort of paper, which I'll put this link in the description, and it basically is the mathematical formulas used to do parallax offset mapping and all this different type of relief mapping, but also get you the correct map. It's super high level mathematical formula stuff, but it basically helps you pop out the forms a lot more. I don't fully understand it, but I think it's friggin' awesome. This is not a technique I've seen. I've seen POM before, but I've not seen like actually displacing stuff. That's pretty cool. Obviously nowadays we would just, I say nowadays, but this is a recent game, we would just kind of model this in. But that is very good for scalability if you can go back to this sort of low poly edge that they've got. So yeah, I'll link the resources in there. So yeah, there is some shader work going on. It fades out from a distance. It actually deforms silhouette, but ultimately is not virtualized geometry. Wireframes in general are pretty good and clean. Lots on the terrain, obviously. Nothing major to look out for topology-wise on this first shot. On the second shot, I just took a typical shot of a corner. And they're using polys where they need to. Using floating bricks where they need to. For barrels, each plank is separate because obviously you can have beef with the barrels, right? You can be like, yeah, what you say to me? Boom. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean it. Please don't attack me. Okay, thank you. But yeah, because you can destroy that, each plank is separate. So everything's built for destruction as well, in the way you hit it. It's really awesome stuff. That's why I really do enjoy this game at the moment. Foliage is alpha cards. Yep. Again, when they started development on this, they would have been using these more, I say legacy techniques, but mainstream traditional techniques, which are still strong to this day. I know that everything is moving towards nanite and virtualized geo, but this stuff is still really good, as we can see with Crimson Desert. The other section I wanted to point out was this was in, I forgot the name. It's up. Oh my God. It crowded me. I'm in the clan. I went all the way up. I didn't have it on this save file, but I went all the way up to Varnia. Found some pretty cool stuff there. So I wanted to take a wireframe and actually grab some textures. These textures aren't exclusively used for like this stuff, but they do give us an insight into how they're actually texturing this game. And to no surprise, it is trim sheets. Lots and lots of trim sheets. They look very photographic in terms of their approach, which is fine. Very photoreal, using a mixture of trims, trim atlases with tiling trims at the top and then atlases at the bottom, trims, tiling, and tiling textures. And then obviously you use the bespoke textures to get your more specific shapes out and all that jazz. Yeah, trim sheets are your typical left to right tiling. You can't really do a game like this without an army of trim sheets. So it's no surprise that they're using a ton of them. Here are some of the trim sheets I've gotten from the game. Nice bright albedos, that is key. Albedos are very important to be bright because that's how PBR works. You know, they reflect more light. They have a certain brightness they should be in the real world. You can track all that data and you can measure it as well. And if you're not sure what trim sheets are, and you're like, what are these sort of textures that repeat? Go check out my trim sheet series and what trim sheets, how and why. But yeah, nice little building here. Caught the wireframe of it. Sort of typical core techniques where bricks are being used to break up basic shapes. Arches have enough cuts in to cut a hole in, and then there's a separate mesh that sits on top like a hat and then flops backwards into it. That is just keeps things nice and modular and clean as well when you're sort of moving along. This is where the trim sheets applied, so nice and quadded up. Yeah, nothing crazy here really. That you don't need to throw lots of detail at the stuff. It is a big open world, and you know they're letting the textures do most of the work with those bespoke sort of meshes. Let's have a look in game. So we've been using always attack things back. Reshade, display depth. Which again, at first, when I turned this on and I looked at this, I'm like, is that geo because it's appearing in this view mode? But no, once you see it's quite soft and blurry, you know it's in the shader. But also, when you walk away from these surfaces, they go back to their sort of base geo in which they are. It's interesting because the big buildings, they don't have much deformation on other than those windows. But down at the player level, you get all of this detail. Like, look at this. This is just like a polycube with, again, that pod material on. Lots of bricks scattered on it using the individual brick technique we spoke about. And then chains put around it. And the chains are actually geo, which is awesome. I mean, usually we would see just like an alpha plane, but they've actually put the detail into the chain and it looks pretty cool. So there's a lot of juice pushed into this little pillar here, which is interesting. Are those little ribbons geo as well? Yeah, they are. So yeah, honestly, this game graphically is solid, especially at daytime, which is going to be the lighting. So I took, oh, watch yourself, buddy. There's an unlisted video that I'm going to link in the description or the comments because it's a time lapse video. But I left my PC on for about 3 hours and just took 3 hours of weather and lighting and just basically got compressed it into 3 minutes. So you see most of the times of day, how the shadows move. They're very sequential. They snap like it's not like a smooth transition, which is fine. But it shows a lot of the time of days. It will also show some weird errors where when you know the clouds are quite big offenders of this in the lighting system, that they have this horrible sort of ghosting effect when birds fly across them. You'll be able to see all that sort of stuff that I've encountered on this system. But daytime lighting is amazing. The textures pop. The contrast is great. You can see that ghosting there. The daytime lighting with the colors of the foliage, amazing. Exterior lighting in general, pretty good. Nighttime, not a huge fan of. Very hard to see. When you do physically accurate nighttime, it's usually not the best idea because it is hard to see. So usually you artificially brighten your night times so that you can actually see. I actually find it annoying to play at nighttime in this game because it's just so hard to see stuff as well. So I'll link that. And what I'm going to do now is going to hop over to a level that has interior lighting because I have some beef with the interior lighting. So yeah, we've hopped a bit more forward towards where the sun's going down now. And there's a few things I've noticed. Nighttime looks just generally a bit rough. Even though they're using their own engine and lighting system, it does draw a lot of parallels to the issues Lumen has in Unreal. For all I know, they're probably sharing similar techniques. Lumen struggles with interiors. This game seems to struggle with that as well. One funny thing I noticed is if you turn off a light and you just move away from like 15, 20 meters away, that light will turn back on like that. Interesting. I'm not sure about the tech in terms of what's happening there, but it looks like it's resetting its state as it goes on. Now, if we can find an interior, maybe the tavern will be pretty good. But when you first go into rooms, you get quite a lot of noise and it starts to settle down. You do get these sort of dark shadow blotches, and if the sun is out, you get a lot of issues where I think you see it a bit here actually. Light bleeds out from the outside inside to the building as well. And it's just very smudgy and noisy, as you can see when you look at interiors. So I think their strengths are definitely their exteriors and their general art approach with that in regard to lighting. But when it comes to the interior to exterior shift in terms of exposure and tech, this is a pretty rough area. Some of the interiors get very difficult to look at as well. Now, it's not just, it can be, I won't say like a universal issue, but it is a big issue with some of these more modern lighting systems. So on the Unreal documentation, there's a sort of a page here. Well, not documentation, it's on like the developer learning website. There's a page called the tunnel problem. The tunnel problem is basically one of many issues that Lumen has where you get this sort of big blotchiness or light bleeding, which looks very familiar from what we've just seen. And it goes over how to basically debug that and try and fix it. Lo and behold, it's a lot of technical jargon, but essentially you get these probes as well that are inside that can be updated as well to help against lack of light of the interiors. But yeah, I think there is just general weirdness with shadows, very splotchy, very smudgy. The exteriors are beautiful, but yeah, interiors leave a little bit left to be seen. But yeah, those are my general sort of examinations of the game. I enjoy it. I'm going to keep playing it. It's a massive game. It's got a lot of pros. It's got some cons, but the developers are actively fixing stuff as they go along. So hopefully this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next one.